Washington Pod presents EARL Nightingale.
Several years ago, a friend of mine played a trick on his wife that changed her life and his too. Over the years, his wife had formed the habit, and it's an easy one to form for a man or a woman, of shouting at the children in the morning as she tried to herd them off to school. She screamed at them to get up and get dressed, to come to breakfast, to get ready for school, to catch the bus. It was a scene no doubt duplicated in thousands, perhaps millions of homes every morning. But it left my friend John, his wife, and the children pretty badly shaken every morning, with nerves jangling and a great desire to get as far from that house as possible in the shortest possible time. Each morning, John found himself heaving a sigh of relief as he left the wild confusion and noise of his home for the relative quiet of the drive to the office. And on one such drive, he got an idea that he felt might help subdue somewhat the nerve-shattering cacophony of his mornings. So the next morning, without his wife's knowledge, John hid a tape recorder and microphone in the kitchen with the volume turned up. All through the frenetic tableau of shouting and imprecations, the silent machine recorded every word, every sound. Then, when the children had gone off and his wife was sitting limply in her chair with a cup of coffee, getting her breath back from her morning drill master duties, John played it back to her. For a few moments, his wife looked at him in curious amazement. Then she suddenly realized that the strident, shouting, barking, unhappy voice was her own. For the first time, she heard herself as she sounded each morning to her husband and children. Her face flamed with wounded embarrassment as the awful sound of her own voice again filled the kitchen. And long before it was over, she had put her head in her arms and was crying her heart out. John turned off the tape recorder and put his arm around her. And when she raised her tear-streaked face to look at him, it was filled with resolve, and she said quietly, "John, I'll never make another sound like that as long as I live." The next morning, the neighbors must have thought this family had left town. The children were dumbfounded but delighted. Their mother was smiling happily. She spoke to them in normal, well-modulated tones. Everything went off like clockwork. And when the children, still dazed by the smiling stranger who looked like their mother, had left for school, John and his wife sat smiling over their coffee. He later said she told him that she'd never be able to thank him enough for bringing home that tape recorder. The great majority of people haven't the faintest idea of the image they project for the world to see and hear. That's why football coaches show their players the films of the preceding week's game. If you want to improve your golf, get someone to videotape your swing. See yourself as you really look, and you can see where you can improve, where you can perhaps slow down and become steadier, more rhythmical. But if you want to have some fun, surreptitiously record the voices of your family at mealtime. That includes your own. You'll all find it a very interesting experience, and it can be hilariously funny.